Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. The year 2004 was not remarkable for coinage in the United States at first glance. The Roosevelt dime, a design that had graced the 10-cent piece since 1946, rolled steadily from the presses of the Philadelphia Mint, fulfilling its everyday role in the nation's commerce. Tens of millions of coins poured out, indistinguishable from one another, destined for pockets, vending machines, and grocery counters. Yet within this sea of ordinary circulation pieces, a strange anomaly began to surface, so subtle at first that even the mint workers themselves overlooked it. Coins born of the same machinery carried a flaw, an imperfection that seemed almost intentional, as though the metal itself resisted conformity. Collectors always watched the flow of coinage closely, and it was not long before whispers emerged of something unusual hidden in the 2004 Philadelphia mintage. Some dimes displayed curious features on their surfaces, faint ghost-like impressions that didn't belong. A careful eye noticed doubling along the lettering, subtle shadows where none should be. Others bore slight distortions in their rims, a fragile echo of misalignment. The Roosevelt portrait, usually sharp, sometimes appeared softened, as though worn before its time. At first, these were dismissed as common strikes, nothing more than routine mishaps in a mint that produced coins by the millions each day. But the more often they appeared in collections, the harder it became to deny that something stranger was at work. For one collector, the story began in the simplest way. Sifting through a pile of pocket change late at night, he noticed the year, 2004, and the tiny mint mark, P, beneath Roosevelt's neck. Ordinary enough, but when light struck the coin at an angle, a doubling in the phrase "In God We Trust" caught his attention. He rubbed his thumb across it, expecting the illusion to fade, yet the shadowed letters remained. His pulse quickened. He fetched a magnifier, examining the edges of the motto, tracing each line where the engraving seemed to have fractured. The more he looked, the more convinced he became that this was no trick of the eye. He had stumbled upon something rare. The emotional weight of that discovery cannot be overstated. For a collector, the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and a coin worth hundreds, or even thousands, rests in details invisible to the casual spender. Each error is a clue, a window into the inner workings of the mint, a frozen moment where machinery faltered and perfection slipped. Holding that dime, the collector felt a surge of connection to history, as though he had rescued a secret that the mint itself never intended to reveal. He placed it carefully into a flip, marked it with the date, and began searching through more rolls, eager to see if lightning might strike again. The first confirmed examples began to circulate within numismatic communities, slowly building intrigue. Online forums lit up with photographs, magnified images showing doubled lettering, off-center strikes, and anomalies in Roosevelt's profile. Prices began modestly, $15 here, $30 there. But speculation grew. Was this error limited to a handful of dies, or had thousands of flawed coins slipped into circulation unnoticed? Collectors debated feverishly, some claiming abundance would diminish value, others insisting scarcity would ensure greatness. As months passed, auction houses began listing 2004 P dimes with authenticated errors. The value crept upward. A piece once pocket change became a $50 curiosity, then a $150 gem. Rumors of even sharper double dies fueled competition, and bidding wars erupted. Those who had once dismissed the coins as trivial now regretted not paying closer attention to their change. And all the while, the true scope of the error remained uncertain. What set this dime apart was not merely the doubling but the manner in which it presented itself. Unlike earlier famous double dies, like the 1955 Lincoln cent or the 1972 cent, the 2004 P dime's doubling could be faint, almost spectral, as though the design whispered its flaw rather than shouted it. Some examples bore strong, dramatic shifts in lettering, while others seemed half-formed, partial impressions caught between states. This inconsistency puzzled collectors. How could coins from the same year and mint show such a range of anomalies? The answer hinted at a deeper twist. Specialists studying the error noted that not all examples were true double dies. Some were die deterioration doubling, a result of worn equipment rather than a hubbing mistake. Others were machine doubling, where vibration during striking produced false shadows. And yet, a handful, just enough to tantalize, were confirmed genuine double dies, with crisp, deliberate separation in design elements. This mixture blurred the boundaries between ordinary flaws and extraordinary rarities. A collector could sift through hundreds of dimes, finding dozens of misleading distortions, before uncovering one that held real, lasting value. The 2004 P dime became both treasure and trap, rewarding the patient but frustrating the careless. The value evolution mirrored this tension. Early sellers profited quickly, riding the wave of speculation, while later buyers demanded authentication before bidding high. Certified examples, encapsulated by grading services, carried premiums many times higher than uncertified pieces. The market fluctuated like a pendulum, prices soaring when a strong double die appeared at auction, then settling back as weaker examples diluted excitement. Collectors chasing the coin learned patience, knowing that the true gems remained few and hidden among the masses. The unique twist came not from the era alone, but from its context. In 2004, the United States Mint was deep into its state quarters program, which drew national attention. Millions of Americans searched their change for commemorative quarters, often ignoring dimes, nickels, and cents. It was within this climate of distraction that the flawed dimes slipped quietly into circulation. While eyes focused on the new quarters, errors bloomed unnoticed in the Roosevelt series, escaping scrutiny until collectors grew curious years later. This oversight amplified the coin's mystique. It was a hidden rarity, overshadowed by the more glamorous releases of its time, discovered only by those who looked beyond the obvious. Some collectors even speculated that the mint's focus on high-volume quarter production contributed indirectly to the dime errors. Strains on machinery, shifts in quality control, and the need to maintain output may have allowed flawed dies to run longer than they should have. If true, the 2004 P dime tells not only its own story but also reflects the broader pressures on the mint during a historic coinage program. By the time the numismatic community fully recognized its significance, the coin had transformed from overlooked mistake to cultural artifact. Collectors spoke of it in the same breath as earlier era legends, though with a sense of caution. It was not as dramatic as the 1955 cent or as bold as the 1937 three-legged buffalo nickel, but its allure lay in its subtlety. The coin asked its finder to look twice, to pay attention where others did not. Its rarity lay not only in numbers but in perception, and still, surprises continued. Years after the first discoveries, new varieties of the 2004 P dime surfaced, misaligned dies that produced crescent-shaped rims, coins missing partial cladding that exposed copper layers beneath, and even examples with off-metal planchets that slipped through undetected. Each new find reignited interest, proving that the story of this dime was not finished but evolving. The coin became a lesson in vigilance. No matter how familiar a design might seem, the potential for discovery always remained. The collector who first stumbled upon the doubling in his pocket change followed the journey with quiet pride. That single coin, once nearly spent on a cup of coffee, had grown into a centerpiece of his collection. Its value was not merely monetary but emotional, a reminder that history hides in plain sight, waiting for those who care to notice. Watching prices rise and fall, he realized that true satisfaction lay not in the market but in the moment of recognition, the thrill of discovery that no auction could replicate. The 2004 P dime remains one of those curious intersections where chance, history, and human attention converge. Born in a year overshadowed by larger coinage programs, marred by errors both trivial and profound, it carved out a legacy through persistence. Its value today reflects not only scarcity but the narrative woven around it, a narrative of oversight, rediscovery, and fascination. For those who hold one, the dime is more than a sliver of metal. It is a story in miniature, a whisper from the mint that mistakes, once hidden, can become treasures when given the right eyes to see them. The year was 2003, and the Philadelphia Mint was busy with one of its most routine yet vital tasks, striking Roosevelt dimes by the hundreds of millions. These were the everyday coins destined for pockets, purses, and cash registers across the nation, blending seamlessly into the flow of commerce. Nothing about the year suggested that something extraordinary would emerge from those presses. Yet buried in the sheer volume of production, among the countless ordinary strikes, a mistake slipped past quality control, unnoticed by the mint, unseen by workers, and overlooked by the public. The dime in question was never meant to stand apart, but chance had marked it with an imperfection that transformed it into something entirely different. At first glance, this dime would seem like any other. It bore the familiar face of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the torch, the olive branch, and the oak branch on the reverse, a design Americans had known since 1946. The Philadelphia P mintmark sat discreetly, marking its origin. But the error wasn't immediately obvious. Only under closer inspection would its oddities begin to emerge, revealing distortions and anomalies that betrayed the machinery's fleeting slip. The coin was a reminder that even in the most controlled environments, precision sometimes falters in ways that reshape history for collectors. One collector, flipping through a small batch of loose change, found his eyes lingering on a dime that didn't quite match the others. He couldn't place it immediately, but the coin seemed off. The portrait's features didn't align as crisply as expected. There was a faint doubling along the motto, an almost ghost-like echo of the letters, subtle enough to overlook but strong enough to catch the trained eye. He held it longer, rotating it beneath the light, feeling the stirrings of possibility. Could this be a run-of-the-mill machine doubling, or was it something rarer, something that carried true weight in the numismatic world? Collectors know that discovery often begins in silence, in those quiet moments of comparison and doubt. The man pulled out a magnifier and examined every ridge, every contour. What he saw ignited both doubt and excitement. This was no ordinary dime. The doubling was sharper than a mechanical blur, it carried definition. On the reverse, the torch flames seemed to split, creating a mirrored effect as though the design itself had fractured. His pulse quickened. Few things rival the thrill of uncovering an anomaly that the mint never intended, a mistake meant to be hidden, now gleaming in plain sight, but discoveries are never validated alone. He needed to compare, to consult. Over the next few days, he scoured forums, reached out to fellow collectors, and combed through resources. Initial responses ranged from dismissive to intrigued. Some shrugged it off as die deterioration doubling, common and unremarkable. Yet a small group of experts began to echo his suspicion, this might indeed be a double die, and one originating from the Philadelphia Mint in 2003. That realization transformed the coin from an odd curiosity into a potential rarity. As word trickled through collecting circles, more examples slowly surfaced, though never in abundance. Each one carried slight variations, reinforcing the theory that multiple dies had been affected. But the number remained small compared to the overwhelming production of ordinary 2003 p dimes. Scarcity began to whisper its influence, hinting at a future where these flawed coins would command a far greater value than their humble 10-cent face suggested. The journey of value is never immediate. At first, the coin's worth barely exceeded $1 or $2, dismissed by many who saw it as another in a long line of mint mishaps. Yet as months passed, collectors began to recognize the rarity. Listings appeared on online auctions, drawing in cautious bidders. Prices inched upward, $5, then $15, then $30, as the narrative around the coin solidified. What had once been ignored became sought after, and the mere mention of a 2003 p double die dime began to stir curiosity among enthusiasts. The story of value evolution is a slow crescendo. By the mid-2010s, whispers of sales reaching into the hundreds began to emerge. A coin once overlooked as pocket change had become a conversation piece, its error elevating it beyond its intended role. Every transaction carried with it a sense of unfolding drama, for no one quite knew where the ceiling lay. Was it a minor error destined to plateau in modest value, or would time reveal it as one of the more significant mistakes of its decade? Collectors speculated endlessly, their debates adding to the coin's mystique. What made this dime remarkable was not only its doubling but also the way it manifested. On certain examples, the word Liberty showed dramatic spread, the letters overlapping in ways impossible to dismiss. On others, the reverse torch and surrounding branches displayed ghost-like doubling, as if the engraving itself had been pulled in two directions. These weren't merely technical quirks, they were visual distortions that turned the dime into something uncanny. Holding one felt like glimpsing a parallel version of the coin, a fractured reflection of what should have been. The deeper twist lay not in the doubling alone but in the circumstances of its survival. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 1.2 billion dimes that year. For such a small number of double dies to emerge from that massive total seemed almost impossible. Yet their survival suggested that collectors and sharp-eyed spenders had intercepted them quickly, preventing them from vanishing into the endless churn of circulation. This unintended preservation gave the error its rarity, for without early recognition, these coins would likely have worn down beyond distinction, lost forever in the sea of commerce. For the collector who first uncovered it, the journey was not simply financial but emotional. He had begun with doubt, moved through exhilaration, and settled into cautious belief. Each sale and auction he watched felt like validation, as though his initial suspicion had grown into a tangible reality. Yet he also knew the unpredictable nature of coin values. Today's treasure could be tomorrow's curiosity, and markets shift as quickly as interest fades. Still, the coin's presence in grading slabs, its listings in error guides, and its recognition in numismatic discussions all confirmed one thing: this dime was no longer ordinary. As its story spread, so too did its reputation as a sleeper rarity. Collectors who had once dismissed it began to search their change with renewed energy, hoping lightning might strike twice. And though some found lesser examples, the strongest double dies remained elusive, locked away in collections or commanding impressive sums whenever they appeared at auction. The unexpected twist in its journey came from its classification. While many coins are quickly catalogued and their varieties well documented, the 2003 P dime remains somewhat mysterious. Different experts debated its origin. Was it a true double die from the hubbing process, or an unusually sharp case of machine doubling amplified by specific conditions? This debate only deepened the intrigue, for ambiguity itself has value. The lack of full consensus kept the dime story open-ended, a puzzle still unraveling, adding layers of mystery that heightened collector interest. The coin's power lay in its dual identity. To the untrained eye, it remained just another dime, easily overlooked in pocket change, its face worn by years of circulation. Yet to those who knew, it was a marker of imperfection, a symbol of how chance and error could elevate the ordinary into something extraordinary. Every time one surfaced, it reignited the question: how many more might still be out there, hiding in rolls, jars, or drawers, waiting to be discovered? The 2003 P dime, through its doubling and its rarity, had quietly rewritten its place in history. From an unnoticed error born in the vast machinery of the Philadelphia Mint, it had grown into a piece of fascination, commanding respect, value, and curiosity. Its journey was not about perfection but about the beauty of imperfection, the way a small mistake could ripple across time, transforming a 10-cent coin into a story worth far more than its weight in silver ever could.